Good morning. My name is Jakim Lybrad, and I come from the Charlestown Primary School, and I'm in grade 6 commitment.
All right. So we have 2 grade 6 students here from the Charlestown Primary School, and they will be helping us, all of you, to learn more about earthquakes. They'll be our educators today. Did you know that you can be teachers at grade 6?
I'm a teacher?
You're a teacher today because we're going to be teaching people and telling people, bringing awareness as it relates to earthquakes. So Natalie, we'll start with you. What do you know about earthquakes?
Earthquakes are the shaking, rolling, or the moving of the... Earthquakes are the shaking, rolling, or sudden shock of the Earth's surface. Earthquakes happen along cracks called fault lines in the Earth's surface. Earthquakes can be felt over large areas, although they usually last less than 1 minute. Earthquakes cannot be predicted, although scientists are working on it.
All right, so we learned just now from Natalie what earthquakes are. Well, she told us a bit about what she knew about earthquakes, and something that stood out for me, Natalie, is that you said that they cannot quite be predicted. So they might come unexpectedly, right? And so we have to be prepared. Scientists are working on it, and of course they can measure the earthquakes, they can measure their impacts, and I'm sure in years to come, maybe one of you will be able to help us to figure out, predict earthquakes, perhaps to let us know when they're coming. All right, Jacqueline, tell us, where can earthquakes happen? Remember, you're educating the public. Where can earthquakes happen?
Earthquakes can happen at any time, and the Caribbean is known to experience them.
All right, so they can happen at any time. They actually happen all over the world. But you know, we're not quite all over the world. We're right here near this. And of course, some of our listeners out there are in various parts of the world. And like you said, they can happen anywhere, anytime. And a few weeks ago, did you guys feel the earthquake a few weeks ago? No, you were probably running somewhere. Maybe that's why you didn't feel it, but they can happen at any time, okay? And Natalie, tell the listening audience, what do we do before an earthquake or in preparation for an earthquake?
The best thing to do before an earthquake is 1. Build an emergency kit so that you have everything on the right time in the right place. Number 2, make a family communications plan. Number 3, know the safe spots in every room under a sturdy table or against an inside wall. You can learn that from playing hide and seek. Number 4, ask your family to hold earthquake drills. Drop cover and hold on.
All right. So let's recap, listening audience, just because we want to make sure that you got everything that Natalie said. Natalie told you to build an emergency kit. Natalie told you to make a family communications plan. So families have to sit down and have family meetings, I'm guessing.
They should.
They should, yes. That's a good idea. And come up with a plan. What would happen if there's an earthquake? What would we do? And then you have to know the safe spots in every room. And Natalie, tell them again, where are some recommended safe spots?
Some recommended safe spots are under a sturdy table or in the corner of a wall.
Okay, perfect. And then, this is a good one. I think it's a good family activity, Natalie. I like that one. That you should hold earthquake drills for your family. And that obtains listeners also for your offices or your churches. It doesn't matter what the activity is. Okay? And what do you do when an earthquake happens while you're in a building, Natalie?
Number 1, drop to the ground. Number 2, take cover under a sturdy table or other heavy furniture. If there's nothing to get under, cover your face and head with your arms and crouch near an inside wall. Number 3, hold on until the shaking stops. Number 4, stay away from windows, glass, lighting fixtures, or furniture that could fall, like bookcases. Be careful with all the books.
All right. And listen, I think that, I don't know, have you guys ever heard of drop, cover, hold on?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you're not too young. So make sure that the listeners understand. Drop, cover, hold on, and stay away from windows, glass, lighting fixtures, or any furniture that can fall on you, because, of course, those can cause injury, and we don't want that. All right, so let's continue. What happens if you are trapped under debris? What should you do?
If trapped under debris, you should cover your mouth and nose with your shirt. Number 2, don't scream. You can breathe in a lot of dust and it doesn't help. Number 3, Tap on a pipe or wall so that rescuers could find you.
Nice. Okay, so that if in the event that ever happens, listeners, viewers, you know exactly what to do. Thanks to Natalie. Jakeem, what should we do after an earthquake?
You can expect aftershocks. They are usually not as strong, but they can cause damage. Open cabinets carefully. Objects may move and could fall on you. Text. Don't talk, as you may block the phone lines for emergency workers.
Okay, I never thought of that one. So listeners, Jakeem, should we share the last one for us? Because I think people like to pick up their phone and make quick calls and hear their family's voices. So what is that important point that you just raised?
Text. Don't talk, as you may block the phone lines for emergency workers.
Awesome. So what do you know about these seismic words that are commonly used? I'm going to give you some seismic words, and you're going to tell me what you know about them. Listeners, I hope that you're listening because this is very important information. Word 1, seismic, or phrase 1, seismic activity.
Well, if I remember clearly, seismic activity is another word for earthquakes along with tremors, quakes, and shakers.
Wonderful. Fault lines.
Fault lines. Fault lines are cracks in the rocks below the Earth's surface.
Wonderful. What about aftershocks?
An aftershock is a smaller earthquake that follows the main shock or previous earthquake.
Perfect. And then we have epicenter.
Epicenter, the center of an earthquake, from which seismic waves are sent
Circularly
in many directions.
And you know what a sphere is. So it's like, a concentric circle, sphere. And so that's what it means. All right. And the last word that we're going to look at is seismograph.
A seismograph is a machine that is used to measure earthquakes.
All right. So how do you feel about being teachers today? How do you think? How do you think you're doing?
I feel smart.
You feel smart. All right. And you never realized that you were teachers before?
No.
Okay. And guess what? You're teachers every day. And so, boys and girls, everyone listening out there, parents, listen to our two very, very, very intelligent and educated teachers, our educators in the area of earthquakes. And so we want them you to listen to them because they're giving you some very, very, very important information. And that information is going to help all of us to remain safe during an earthquake. And earthquakes are not something foreign. They're not something that we might never have to experience or we might never hear about. Earthquakes happen right here in the Caribbean region, right here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we feel them sometimes right here on Nevis, including, as I said, not too long ago. Is there anything that you would like to say to the listening and viewing audience before we go to the next section? Any words of advice that you want to give to people in relation to earthquakes and earthquake safety? You can repeat something that you said before, or you can give a different set of advice. Any advice?
I have some advice, which is always have the emergency kit prepared, even if you don't know if the earthquake is coming. As said before, earthquakes cannot be predicted.
Okay, so Natalie is very correct. Always have your emergency kit. And I think the emergency kits, Natalie, can help you in any disaster. Any disaster. So it's important that we have those kits packed, that we are prepared. Like we said earlier, you don't know when an earthquake will come, and until Natalie and Jakeem figure out how to predict an earthquake, we might be waiting for a little while, or one of their peers, but the scientists are working on it. So very, very, very good advice, Natalie, to our listeners and viewers, and we're so proud of you for that advice. Jakeem, any advice for our listeners, viewers, any advice for children, any advice for anyone at all? And you can share something that you shared before. Perhaps, for example, you can share what we can do after an earthquake. And while Jakeem is thinking about what we can do after an earthquake, I think that I want to repeat something that was shared earlier as well, in terms of if you're trapped under the debris, what you should do. We reinforce the texting instead of calling, but it's also important for us to talk about the fact that you should not scream, because usually with earthquakes and when you're under debris, you have a lot of things that can get into your mouth, especially dust, and you don't want that to choke you or to clog your lungs. So listeners, very good advice from our children. And Jakeem, you can continue with your advice.
Just remember, expect the aftershocks. They may usually not be strong, but they can cause damage.
All right. So aftershocks will come. So you'll have the big shake, and then you might have some smaller shakes, not milkshakes, earthquake shakes and tremors.
I could go for a milkshake.
You could go for a milkshake right now, and that's the only shake we really want. But the reality is that we might experience earthquakes from time to time. And so, listeners, viewers, there you have it from our educated young people, our grade 6 students at the Charlestown Primary School, Natalie and Jakeem, and they were sharing with us some very important facts, some tips that I hope you took note of, and we hope to see and to hear about your various drills happening at home, and we hope to hear that you have your emergency kits ready, and we hope that you'll have your family meetings so you can be prepared in the event of an earthquake. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation.
When VON vibrates, the whole Caribbean must shake.
860 AM, the powerhouse.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know we're gonna have a great time. And now we're past it quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. Youth on the go. Oh, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Oh, let's start the show. Oh, let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab your gears, let's gather around, and adventure is always waiting. With storytelling news for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go.
You ever hear earthquake call and say, "Hello, Miss Lee, yes, it's me, earthquake, I coming Tuesday around 10? No, sir. Earthquake does arrive unannounced, and when it come, it shake all sense and sensibility out of we. Remain calm, stay inside, and do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Once the shaking starts, you know it's earthquake. Make a quick move to a safe place. Don't go to the door, we are in the exit. Stairs might block up or full of people. Elevator, avoid that, because you might get in and poof, power gone, and you're stuck in that box without air. Take cover under a strong table or a bed, or crouch against an inside wall or in a corner, and cover your face and your head with your arms. Remember, DCH, drop, cover, hold on. Glass windows and doors, outside walls and doors in an earthquake, bad news. Check for yourself. Most injuries during earthquakes happen when something drop and hit people entering or exiting a building. Last thing, don't want to run outside and ask, you feel it? Remain calm, stay indoors until all the shaking stop, and do the DCH, drop, cover, hold on.
Right, and welcome back to Youth on the Go here on Vaughan Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education, and we are here on Saturdays to share with you as much as possible in relation to empowering and developing our students, our young people. And this week we are focused on earthquakes. We have partnered with the Nevis Disaster Management Department, and we will be talking about, or we have been talking about, earthquakes. Let me tell you, I just had a wonderful experience with two of our very own students, Miss Mr. Jakeem Liebert and Miss Natalie Durand of the Charlestown Primary School, and they are superstar educators in the information related to earthquakes, and we're so proud of our students and we want to thank them for a great interview. And so now we're going to move on and we're going to meet another important guest who will share some more information with us. We are going to meet up with, we have with us on the line Dr. Rodrigo Contreras Aratia, and he's a seismologist at UE SRC, and he will be sharing some information with us about earthquakes. And so, Dr. Rodrigo, good morning.
Good morning, Zahnela.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. And so this morning, we want you to share with us an overview of the earthquake hazard. Tell us a bit about earthquakes for all of our listening audience.
Well, it's difficult to add up something to what the kids just said, Jakeem and Natalie. They did a very good job. Just to give some information about the regional information that we have from the Caribbean, we have a subduction zone over here, where one plate is going beneath the Caribbean plate, so that causes earthquakes, and it's been caused for thousands of years. So we need to live with this, learn how to be prepared, because an earthquake is imminent, as the kid just said. So it's important to note that they are going to come, and we need to be prepared.
All right. So thank you so much for that, Rodrigo. Can you tell us a bit about the state of earthquakes in the Caribbean? We know that from time to time we feel earthquakes, from time to time there are tremors. Tell us a bit about the status and state of earthquakes in the Caribbean region.
Yeah, recently, as you mentioned earlier, we had an earthquake near the island of Guadeloupe. It was a magnitude 6.1 earthquake. It was quite deep though, 170 kilometers if I recall well. So it should have produced like a moderate shaking. Anyway, this shaking can cause some damage. So I hope the plans that families have at home or in the schools or workplace were set up. Just to protect, like something might fall on people's heads or something like that. Near Nevis, St. Kitts and Nevis now, I checked this morning, and this week we had an earthquake magnitude 3.7 between the islands of Nevis and Barbuda. So these earthquakes are fairly common. Every once in a while you feel that you are feeling more earthquakes, or you know about more earthquakes, but in a long time period, the seismicity just remains constant. It's just for the moment when something is happening, you feel that it's a little bit more activity, but over the years, this is the pattern. This is a cycle. It's the earthquake cycle that we know in science, and it's going to continue. As I told before, we need to be prepared.
You mentioned, Rodrigo, magnitude 6.1, magnitude 3.7. Maybe some of our listeners don't understand what these numbers mean. What do they really mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, the magnitude of an earthquake is how much energy does it liberate. Yeah, it doesn't give you information on how people feel it. It's just the energy of the process of the earthquake. There is another quantity called intensity that gives us a measure of how the earthquakes are felt by the population. So if we have one earthquake, for example, this magnitude 6.1, it's just one number because it's the process of an earthquake. But the intensity can vary from St. Kitts to Nevis, or to Guadeloupe, or to Montserrat. So in different places you have different shaking. Yeah, depending.
All right, and so Rodrigo, we and listeners. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. My internet connection apparently. Yeah, so the intensity gives different values. You have several values for one single earthquake, and that gives us an idea of how the shaking was.
And Rodrigo, if we hear, for example, 6.1, what type of damage would that have versus generally versus maybe one that is higher? What is potentially the highest recorded, or what can make us, start to worry?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Jeez.
Okay, are you hearing me?
I'm so sorry. I couldn't hear you very well.
Okay, so I was asking if a magnitude 6.1 versus something stronger, what are some of the numbers that we should start worrying about? Okay, we might have lost connection with Rodrigo, but I was trying to find out the magnitude of the earthquakes, if 6.1 is something that we would have to worry about, or if we would have to worry about something that's bigger in terms of the types of damage being caused.
Okay, so a magnitude 6 in general is just moderate shaking. It doesn't mean that a larger earthquake will come. That's generally not the case, even though there have been research in such cases. But there is no evidence now that a larger earthquake will happen. So we just need to be prepared for any case, as the kids, Joaquim, I think he said, that they can come in at any moment. And the magnitudes, it's something that it's as difficult to predict as the location. So basically, we need to just be prepared.
All right.
For all cases.
Okay. So what types of mitigation procedures should we have in relation to earthquake hazards? What can we do in terms of mitigation procedures?
Yeah, in such cases, there are different players here. It has to have a plan from the government and the emergencies office in each island. But also families and the community, like in the school or in the workplace, they need to take action on how to act and be prepared for this. Sometimes it's very difficult. It seems like an overreaction that we are thinking that it's I don't know, that is not a risk really, but it's very important that we need to be ready. The science that we know from the Caribbean, it doesn't have so much time. I mean, we haven't studied the area for a long time, despite that UV seismic has been working for 70 years. The earthquake cycles are 70 or even more years. So we don't understand fully how the earthquake is going to happen, but we need to keep monitoring. So everybody needs to be aware of this, and we need to basically be prepared. The kids, Joaquim and Natalie, they said like very spot on comments. You need to be prepared before, obviously, keeping an emergency kit, talking with the family. The kids need to know what to do if they are outside home, for example in the school. Everybody needs to be coordinated. So in the case an earthquake will happen, everybody wouldn't panic or take decisions just on their feet.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And do you have any special advice or any additional advice for the Nivision general public and the public listening? We have persons listening from all over the world via YouTube and Facebook.
And you, yes, the most important is that you said it before, and Natalie and Joaquim. Oh my God, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we're hearing you.
Hello?
Yes. We can hear you.
Yes, I'm sorry, I have a very bad connection.
That's okay.
As you mentioned before, the most important is drop, cover, hold on. Yeah, that's the 3 steps that we need to take into put into action during a shaking. But obviously, all these measurements that the kids said earlier, it's everything in our website, ueseismic.com. So you can find information about the latest earthquakes and also the guidelines for preparedness. So I invite everybody to join, to visit the website and get more information from there, detailed information. Also, I want to point out that whenever an earthquake happens, we have a "Did you feel" form also in the website. That information is critical for us, and we can put effort where it's needed whenever we need to plan for our operations. So I suggest and I ask people, please fill that form. You will give us valuable information that we can translate it into better monitoring and better information for the population.
All right. Can you tell us again where we can find the "Did you feel it" form for those who missed it? It's important, and I think we should repeat.
The website is uwiseismic.com.
All right, uwiseismic.com, ueseismic.com, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so I never knew about the "Did you feel it" form, Dr. Rodrigo, and so I'm hoping that all of our listeners and viewers now have an awareness of the form and will be able to document when they have felt an earthquake. We want to say thank you for the information. Thank you, Dr. Rodrigo, for joining us and for sharing from your expertise, and we look forward to continued collaborations with you as well as we make sure that everyone knows about earthquakes and how we can prepare for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a short break, listeners, and then we will come right back. Remember, today we are focused on earthquakes, and we have an earthquake awareness campaign going on. Compliments the Nevis Disaster Management Department. They've partnered with us here at the Ministry and Department of Education, and they've partnered with several entities throughout the island of Nevis to bring awareness. This month, our focus is earthquakes. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back.
From Queen City, Nevis, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, Vaughn Radio.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know we're gonna have a great time. An hour passes quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab the gears, let's gather around, and adventure is always waiting. The storytelling news for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go.
Let's go. Good morning to all of our radio listeners or viewers via Vaughn Radio's Facebook page and YouTube channel, and welcome to this edition of Youth on the Go here on Vaughn Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education, and we are here to share information, updates, activities as much as we can with our students, with our young people, to ensure that we can empower them as much as possible. This morning we are empowering students, we're empowering young people, we're empowering parents, we're empowering the general public, we're empowering persons on Nevis and persons overseas, and we are partnering with the Nevis Disaster Management Department to talk about earthquakes. We've had a series of persons. We've spoken with Mr. Jack Gumba, we've spoken with Mr. Jakeem Liebert and Miss Natalie Durand from the Charleston Primary School, and we had Dr. Rodrigo Contreras Arateria from he's a seismologist at the UESRC. And so we have with us our senior communications officer as we wrap up this awareness campaign. We have Mr. Jacob Gumba. Most of us know him as Jack Gumba, and he'll talk to us about a bit more about what has obtained and what will obtain for the remainder of January as it relates to earthquakes. Jack?
Wow, I'm already so excited. You see, the two ambassadors from Charlestown Primary School, Jakeem Liebert and Natalie Durand, did what was just. You see, they claim ownership of the message. In that case, imagine they are just in primary school. By the time they get to sixth form, you see what will be embedded in them. That is just our goal. Not to pass out messages alone, but to ensure that they are strategically disseminated to empower behavioral change. Because that is the first capacity building that we need, the right behavior towards a hazard, what to do before, during, and after. So the month of January focus on earthquake, and there are other activities that are on the pipeline. We had a radio presentation today with the experts we graciously had from UE Seismic. I'll go ahead of the game to say they will be present on Nevis in the month of April, because on our calendar we deal with the seismic hazards for the first 4 months. January, earthquake; February, landslide; March, tsunami; then April, volcano. So they will come and do a summary of all these hazards, and those key schools will be visited. In continuation with the earthquake awareness program, which I am sure we are all excited on, is on Monday, all the schools are going to do the drop, cover, hold on simultaneously at 10 a.m. I'm sure this is the first time such is done, apart of when we have Caribou wave exercises where the focus is on tsunami, where persons just run to higher ground. But focusing on earthquake, you find all the schools doing it for the first time. It will be a simple announced drill. It's not going to be complex. The focus will be on the DCH, how well it is done in the classroom, the hold on for an aftershock in case it occurs, the evacuate to the safe zones. The teachers now check on the students to ensure no one is locked up in class or trapped somewhere, and after that the all clear is given. So that will be the main pattern of that exercise. I must commend the Education Department or Ministry of Education. They have embraced this concept as if it's their own. They must be commended publicly. Ms. Zahnela Claxton, I must appreciate you. She is ready at all time. And if you won't know, every last week for the month of a program, Youth on the Go is dedicated for the campaign. That is why we have the earthquake program now. Next month it will be on landslide, and the various months we follow the calendar accordingly. And one key thing I also want to encourage is it is not limited only with the schools. We extended it to faith-based, and we extended it to what we call counseling and business base. Another component will be the artist base. All these will be expanded to work simultaneously. As time goes on, we'll be talking about their progress. The interference of COVID limited the flow of everything where we all had lockdown, but thank God 2023 things are kicking back off. So expect more and more surprises and things which you are part of it as well, because your safety counts as well as mine.
All right, and Jack, I know that you said something very instructive on Monday. So we've had this conversation. On Monday, we are expecting to see some planned drills, scheduled drills in the area of earthquake. Our children, especially the younger ones, I can't imagine that our kindergartners know about drop, cover, hold on. Back a few years ago, there were a few songs coined around it to bring awareness. There were some ads, and the children were able to practice. And so while our aim is in the future is to have unplanned drills, unscheduled drills, it's important that we teach children how to do things properly, and so we will be doing a scheduled drill on Monday at our various schools. The Department of Education has decided that we will also do the drill at the same time at the department, and so we are encouraging any other organization to join in to go through the process and to, at least as we talked about with Natalie and Jakeem, identify the places in your any environment that you work in or live in. Where would I go if there is to be an earthquake? If, for example, we're here, then we know that we would have to get under the studio desk. So wherever you go, you have to be prepared as to where would I go if I'm here, especially those places where you are every day. Super. What would I do? And it's not something that is foreign. I know everybody would, and on WhatsApp status, everybody, did you feel that? Did you feel that? And the ad that was played in between, we heard time and time again, make sure that you just don't run outside and ask if people felt it, but you exercise the safety precautions. You make sure that you find a table or a very sturdy area to go under, or if you can't and there's no place, then you find yourself against the wall in a corner, as Natalie said earlier, so that you are safe. So parents, please, these are the conversations you need to be having with your children. We are encouraging it at school. We are encouraging it, as Mr. Gumba said a few minutes ago, we're encouraging it through the faith-based organizations. We're encouraging it in the business communities. But a good portion of our time is spent at home, and many times when we have earthquakes and sometimes when we have tremors, we feel them at home. So where is it? Or what will you do if you are at home and it is to happen? So I want to, as I said, hone in on that and encourage others to join us on Monday before the month is over to participate in a planned drill for earthquake awareness.
In fact, you said it all. One key thing I want to encourage is that safety programs or campaigns are not meant mainly for activities. They should become a lifestyle. Something like earthquake, it has no manners in that it doesn't tell you when it's coming. It can happen when you are asleep. It can happen when you are in the supermarket. So what I advise is, and at times the way we pack things in the house, remember the boxes you had in the colonial years, you put them right at the top so no one can see. That becomes the biggest hazard. When there is an earthquake, that's what will maybe fall on your head. So be mindful. You walk on the street, you ask yourself, in case there is an earthquake, this pole, is it going to fall on my head? Wherever you are, just be mindful, and it will create a pattern of safety. So not only for earthquake, but for every other hazard.
All right. So I think there we have it. And earlier, Jack, I mentioned the sports calendar. And I want the public to know that an integral part of especially our major sporting events is a disaster management plan. So we always have to have a plan. Great. What would happen if an earthquake were to come and we are at an event, or if a tsunami were to come and we're at an event, or any natural disaster were to happen and we're at an event? We're planning for you. We collaborate once again with the disaster management department, and we have a plan in place for every event. But you need a plan. You need a plan at home. You need a plan at school. You need a plan within your various office spaces and various spaces in which you function. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank the entire team of the Nevis Disaster Management Department. I want to thank Ms. Zoe Bendito as well. She does an awesome job of ensuring that we get things captured and recorded. And Zoe, you might not see Zoe, listeners and viewers, but Zoe is very, very important in this process. And so we want to thank you as well, Zoe. And we want to acknowledge the work that is being done. We want to acknowledge our principals. Our principals were on they actually had to go through a briefing with the Nevis Disaster Management Department, and they are on board and they are making sure that your children are safe. We want to thank you, principals and school management teams, for the leadership in the disaster management efforts, and we know that we will be able to educate our children, to continue to educate our children. Education should be holistic. It should be more than just the academics and the pen and paper, and we know we bring in the athletics, but disaster management is also an important part of the education process. Thank you, Mr. Gumba, and for all of you, you can follow us on our Facebook page, Nevis, Ministry of Education Nevis, if you want updates, especially as it relates to the sports calendar. I know many of you want to know what's happening there, so we will provide those updates for you. So just tune in and keep posted, and we will try to keep you up to speed with everything that's going on. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
You're listening to Vaughn Radio.